dun, 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 dun. Welcome everyone to Feminine Fridays. I'm Laura Rubenstein here with the awesome and amazing Diane Huffman. Hi, Diane.
Hi, Laura. Great to be here and welcome to the weekend, everyone.
Once again, we're at a Friday and it's just such a pleasure and a privilege and a fun time that you and I get to spend together, Diane. I'm
Definitely.
just excited to see you back here in San Diego and the paradise on the mainland, as I call it.
Absolutely. Paradise everywhere we go.
Yeah, we just created. I'm listening to the book called Flow,
Ah,
and it's by Mihai Csikszentmihalyi, or Mihai Csikszentmihalyi. Anyway, it's pretty close to his very complicated name, but he's talking about the flow state of, making something that's boring really enjoyable, and we can do
mm,
it in any situation if we just know a few keys. And kind of what we do here with the feminine power cards, uh, we talk about, creating your life using some nonlinear principles and practices and ways you can just tap into that feminine energy. And it's not just for women, although, the deck is pink and it's really pretty and it's a great gift for women. So if you're looking for a holiday gift or a gratitude gift for Thanksgiving, this is a great little hostess gift. And something to give that has depth and meaning. And we're here pretty much every Friday talking about those feminine power principles. So a bonus to the gift is invite them over to the Feminine Power Cards page and they can talk with us about it. So I'm thrilled that everyone's here. And how are you doing, Diane?
I'm doing fabulous. Today is Grandparents' Day at my granddaughter Sloan's school, so it was just really fun to just be in the kid energy and creative energy. So we created a Thanksgiving wreath and a card and just that whole cutting and pasting, and so it was really great to be in that creative energy with her.
And we talked about that last week. That was the card we pulled last week, was create. And so when we bring that into our lives, and in this book Flow, he was talking about when we learn something new or we challenge ourselves, even if it's something as simple as cutting and pasting, with another goal to create something that can put us into the flow state pretty quickly. It doesn't
Right.
have to be rocket science, and it doesn't have to be something intellectually challenging necessarily, but creative is where um, can be very fulfilling. So,
Right, right. Well, and I actually had a really good lesson with her too, because I tend to be very symmetrical when I do my artwork. It's like, even and all these certain things. And I was just kind of watching her put together these leaves, and some of them were like up higher than the other, and they were certain colors together, and it was just one of those things where it's like, it was that reminder that it can just be anything that just speaks to your heart.
hmm, yeah, and it's interesting to see other people's creative process because then it can inform and influence your own and give you a whole new opportunity to expand your skill. And even if we can learn so much from kids because they're so free, they don't have those in the box kind of concepts of, oh, we need to make it all balanced. And no, it could be kind of wabi sabi, and there's a beauty in that, right?
Yeah, definitely.
So cool. So I pulled a card for us today, and I thought we could talk about it. So welcome everyone who's joining us to this Feminine Fridays. As you know, we always pull a card from the Feminine Power Cards deck that I created, and I just love that we're taking this time because I keep these cards in my desk, and I will pull them out from time to time because they reset me, and my intention is that they reset you into just another, they get you out of your box like you were talking about. It's like, how do we get ourselves out of our box? Well, one way is go play with kids. If you have no kids, you can go play with the feminine power cards
Yeah.
or both. Why not? So, without further ado, today's card is Cultivate Inner Strength and Grace.
Mm.
Cultivate inner strength and grace. And so, the pink side always has the principle on it, the blue side has the practice. And so that's something to do. And then we have the code on the bottom, which is a star. Star means it's an actual activity to do. A heart would mean something to contemplate, meditate on, or journal about. And a smiley face means it's an affirmation. And a combination means a combination. So this practice you're invited to do is to stand tall and grace a safe stranger you normally wouldn't with your presence for a minute. So whether that's a smile or a hello, or you're in a supermarket in line that's safe, you know, you can offer to, you know, move the groceries on the conveyor belt and say, oh, here, I made a space for you, you know, like interact in some way. um, I, you know, a lot of times we look away from people with disabilities, and you know what? They're just as able as we are in different ways. So I actually think the right term is handicapped. That is the appropriate term for them. They prefer that over disabled, from what I understand. But grace somebody you normally wouldn't with a smile, with your presence. It makes a huge difference. It'll cultivate your inner strength and confidence. Would you agree?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, it's interesting. I think it's a fun exercise when how you show up and when you really access your inner strength. I like to talk about having access and seeking your own power within yourself, you know, that strength within you. And I really believe that's part of that being fierce and feminine. So grace, I feel grace is a very feminine flow, and you know, strength can be very powerful. And I love the interaction of those things together because I think they're so much more juicier and powerful when they show up together. And I think when you kind of set that intention of showing up in a room that way, people feel it. So even if you didn't say something to someone, but you just showed up in that strength and in a flow of grace, and you were just feeling good about who you are being, it attracts people to you. And I think that that is just an interesting, when you just set that intention and walk in a room, see who approaches you, see who notices that you're being that positive presence in the room.
Yes. Yeah, I love that you point out that these two words are not usually put together, strength and grace, but that is the point. The feminine is super strong, can be fierce. You've seen, you know, the caricature of um, who's the villain in like Under the Sea? What's that? Uh,
Ursula.
Ursula, yes, the underwater witch. She's so fierce and she's so passionate and but she's using her energy for evil. We want to invite you to use your energy for good. You know, it's still that strong thing, and you know, um, uh, when you can have that confidence and you know your clarity, you're clear that you want to be a positive influence in people's life, and how you do that is by giving them some grace, gracing them with your attention, um, and yet having clear boundaries, right? It's not like they get to walk all over you or they get more than, you know, a minute of your time. But, and I'm not saying they don't, but if you're choosing that, if that's clear for you, then it's so enriching for them, it's empowering for you, and it just sets the stage for more positive energy in our world at large. So, you know, like what are the graceful things that you find yourself wanting to do, and how do you find yourself being grace? And the reason I put the word safe in there is in order to express ourselves, we must feel safe. So we're not encouraging anybody to be out there in the world unsafe. I mean, there's time and place to take a risk, but that's not what we're talking about with this card in particular.
Right. Yeah, I like it. I like it. You know, it's funny when I think of strength. It's so important to show up with that in the world, you know, and really be that. And you know, I believe that strength, it's portrayed through being confident. You know, it's about just taking a step, and that's where it may actually feel kind of risky, right? When you're coming from that place of strength and confidence, and that's where it's like stepping outside of your comfort zone to show up in a different way. And you know, one of the things where that's kind of shown up for me this week in terms of, I have found that I am standing in my strength when I am saying no to things, like when I am actually resisting the temptation to do some things. I particularly had to kind of stand in my own strength yesterday to not want to just do some things for the sake of doing them, that I was really being intentional about just being, and really reflecting on what was my next powerful move and how I wanted to move into this holiday season and what I wanted to really stand in. And it was an interesting kind of struggle within myself of wanting to do more versus really having the strength of doing less. And a lot of times we don't think of strength as doing less and coming from a place of being.
Well, there's a couple things I want to say to that. I love that you're bringing this up. So you're talking about the JOMO. So we hear about the
Yes.
FOMO as the fear of missing out, but here's the joy of missing out. The JOMO
Yes.
is an opportunity. The other thing about saying no and standing in your strength doesn't mean it. And what if we add the word grace in there? How do you stand in your strength and say no to something gracefully so the other person doesn't feel, well, we can't control how they feel, but so we know we're leaving, our intention is to leave that person feeling good, right? As good as we can. It's an intention.
Right. Yeah.
You may be disappointing to that other person. You have to deal with your own, FOMO, fear of missing out, or JOMO, which I've gotten in the habit of. It's like, yeah, I'm saying no to that because I'm going to have a really nice warm evening at home and I'm going to
Right.
nurture myself. So the, it's an art to say no gracefully. And I remember talking to a guy. He went down to Brazil. He was in a bar. He was picking up on a gal, and he goes, "I had the most amazing rejection." I go, "Really? Tell me about this." Because, yeah, I mean, like normally I would be all hard on myself and like kicking myself about this, but I was at a bar, I was picking this woman up and she touched my hand and she said, "You're a really lovely man and I need to decline." Like something like that. It was just like, and I'm really flattered and I'm going to say no, and you know what? Do you hear that? There's no reason being given. She didn't have to explain herself. Why is she saying no?
Right.
And she's
Right.
leaving that man knowing that you're an honorable man. I really appreciate your efforts. You're lovely, and I'm going to say no. I just have
Hmm.
to say no.
Right.
It's just no. No is a complete sentence.
I like
And
that you used the word decline.
yes, yeah, and that's another word. I'm
It's a
going
very
to,
graceful, dignified word.
yes, and I need to decline, or I'm going to decline, and and know that it's my choice. It's what I'm doing. It's where I'm at right now, and there's no need to explain. So, but the more important part of where she was putting her energy was not on the no, it was on the "you're lovely" and you did a nice thing by complimenting me. Wanted to pick me up, right? And whether or not he meant it like, hey, let's just go have a one night stand, or he wanted to get to know her more, and it doesn't really matter. She acknowledged his best side. So when you acknowledge somebody and the goodness in their heart, whether they're coming from that place or not, it's there. You can say what is true for you, in terms of the answer they need to know. She didn't need to tell her whole life story, the backstory, the reason, the struggle she had with figuring out the right words, whatever. It was just, I'm going to decline. So that's an example of, cultivating that inner strength with the grace. And I put this on here for that reason. It's like, what if we were kinder to each other when we had to say no? What if we were kinder to each other when we were feeling like retaliating, or feeling like somebody did us betrayed and we just want to
Mhm.
lash out, or we had a bad day and we're just transferring that energy to some poor innocent soul who really doesn't need that, right?
Right, right. Well, and it gives us a moment to reflect on what are the word choices that we are doing. So, I mean, my grandson's starting to crawl and now knows how to crawl up the stairs. And
Mhm.
so there's that reactionary thing where you can kind of like, oh no, right? And it's nice to not use no when possible, to really set boundaries and be firm, right? So it's about being strength, having that, but to gracefully, guide him in a different way or do something different. And because he doesn't know he could fall backwards down the stairs or something like that. But it's just in those moments of, give ourselves those extra few seconds to choose better words.
Yeah. And it also brings to mind, like, okay, well, maybe you did react sometime. Maybe you weren't proud of the way you said it and you did it without grace. And it was strong and it was probably hurtful. Well, then the graceful part is to go back and say, I really feel like I didn't do this gracefully and I may have left you in a bad place. And I want to apologize for that because I'm trying to do better than that. And you really are amazing and I value you, um, and I needed, I just couldn't help myself to get that out there like that. So That's another form of grace is gracefully apologizing and then acknowledging, doing the acknowledgement and after the fact. So what's neat is if we use all of these opportunities in our life to practice, we get better at doing it ahead of time versus in arrears. So,
Definitely.
and kids are great practice because we are more intentional with kids a lot of times. We give them the benefit of the doubt more often than we give adults, especially people who are in our inner circle or people we um, are used to familiar with. And or if if you're being more stressed, or if you're experiencing more stress right now, how you act in certain situations is usually different than graceful. So
Yeah.
this is a slowdown opportunity. Like you said, take those couple extra seconds. When we're stressed, it's really important to take a few extra seconds to get
Yeah.
into the at least close to grace.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think that now I see such a difference, and I think that's why a lot of times people say having grandchildren is like your second chance to be able to like reparent, because I know that when my daughters were young and I was on the police department, I had a lot of stress, and I know that I was not a patient parent, and there was a lot of, I mean, embarrassed to say, of like, because I said so, and just like just do it kind of thing, and didn't really give them that graceful space, and was a little bit overbearing, I know, in a lot of different ways. And we've had conversations with them as adults about, I did the best I could with all I knew in the moment and what that looks like. But we do have opportunities to do it differently and to shift and change into that. And I feel like I'm reminded that now with my grandchildren, to be able to look at like, okay, whew, deja vu. I think we can do this a little bit differently now.
And, if we treat each other a little bit more with kid gloves, that's the opportunity here to spread kindness, to develop ourselves more, to focus on slowing down and getting into that graceful state. If you don't slow down, you will not get to that graceful state. And I was on the freeway the other day. I felt myself being anxious, accelerating, and I was like, whoa, I'm going 90. I'm like, no, 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 no. And I'm like, yeah, I want to get there fast. But here's my quote for all of you: royalty never rushes.
Ooh, I like that.
Royalty never rushes. So if we want to think of ourselves as graceful as royalty, then that was a good thing. Like, I can take a breath, get back into there. I can be in the highest place that I want to be by that little phrase helps me a lot. So if there's anything that helps you get into grace while being strong and has served you, please share that here today. We are loving the interaction when you want to give us the ideas here on Facebook. So please do that. We do check our messages, and I'm glad some of you are tuning in, but you're invited to, you know, think about how you can be more graceful this week. And as this is the month of gratitude, right? We're going into Thanksgiving in the US here on Thursday. So there's an opportunity for more grace with your gratitude.
Yeah, definitely. Such a fun time. It's like starting to get chilly, wearing sweaters, and just, it's that time to have more of that introspective time.
Right. Right. So take it on. If you want a deck of the Feminine Power cards, of course, you can always get them at femininepowercards.com. And Diane, where can they find you and your resources?
We can go to my website at diane@dianehalfman.com, and definitely friend and connect with me on Facebook. And you can send either one of us a personal message. If, sometimes when we have these conversations, it'll actually ping something for you and you want to have someone to connect with. And we're happy to connect with you, answer any questions. So definitely reach out to us on all of our social media channels.
Awesome. And we'll be back likely next week, Black Friday, with another Feminine Power card. So we'll see you
Sounds
then.
good. All right. Have a great weekend. Bye for now.
Thanks, Diane. Bye, everyone. Mwah.
Thanks, Laura.